The Labour Party has cemented its control over the ACT. Now, the Labour Party seems set to form government in the recent elections in conjunction with the Greens. This is basically the status quo. Now, while the Greens had a swing against them, and the Liberal Party did, well, better than expected, really, the Liberal Party once again failed to form government. Now, this has led to the usual recriminations, with Kate Carnell, the former Chief Minister of the ABC, saying that ABC might as well not even bother with democracy. However, while I can empathise with her perspective, that kind of misses the point. Because the ACT did bother with democracy. They voted for a democratically elected, radical socialist government, as they have done for the past 27 years. The ACT decided to do so. Now, of course, the ACT might run terrible budgets, they might spend too much money, and the rest of us might have to pay. But they voted for this trash. Now, of course, to my mind, the other states should be well within their rights to say, well, we refuse to pay for your stupid decisions. That doesn't always happen, but they really should be. Furthermore, the Canberrans should be saddled with the stupid decisions and the costs thereof that they have to bear. The real issue, however, comes back to the fundamental nature of how democracy is working in Australia. And the problem is, this creates, I guess, what's been termed a principal-principal conflict out there in the analysis. I.e., it's a situation where you've got two categories of voters, some of whom bear the cost of the policies, some of whom don't. And this therefore means the people who don't bear the cost of the policies vote in favour of the policies that benefit them, but that other people are paying for. It's Socialism 101. You're voting to seize someone else's assets or seize someone else's hard work. That's in essence how the ACT works. The thing is with the ACT, there aren't many aspirational people, and this is really where it falls flat on its face, and where the problem becomes even more severe. The reason for this is most people in the ACT work for a university or for a government. They have no real private sector skin in the game. There's not really an ambitious path for them. They're just working all of their time for the government. By contrast, in some other locations, people might be electricians or tradesmen or whatever, and they might have set up their own business. They realise that if they work harder, they can get ahead. And even if they're not currently doing so, they have aspirations to be able to do so. They see that their boss, who is running the plumbing company, has been able to work up from where they came from, and people can see that they too could be in that situation. So they have aspirations for a better life. Now, not everyone does this. Not everyone has such aspirations, and there's still a large number of people who see, well, I can seize someone else's assets, and it is a problem. However, it is less of a problem than in the ACT. By contrast, in the ACT, people don't have that. The ambition and the aspiration simply isn't there. So you've got a majority of people who don't have that drive, who can attack a minority of people who do. Or perhaps their forebears did. Perhaps their parents did and now they're building on it, or their grandparents and the like. Whatever the case might be, they see, well, I'm not really going to work harder to set up my own business or be entrepreneurial or simply put in more hours because I don't get a benefit from it. Instead, to get ahead, I will need to seize someone else's assets. That's how the ACT works. And that's what happens when people are indentured servants to their government or to their corporation. People start to try to seize other people's assets. What the government really needs to be doing is encouraging people to go out and get wealthy on their own. It's a difference in mindset. It's a difference between trying to grow the pie by encouraging everyone to get ahead, to work hard, and to try to do so. And they get rewarded for doing that and lauded and praised for doing a good job. Versus the divisive politics that the Greens and the LP are going along with, which is to try to slice up an ever-shrinking pie so that they are redistributing wealth within society. It's a very different mindset. Unfortunately, however, the ACT has that rather divisive, that retrograde, that rather backward-looking mindset entrenched in it, because people in the ACT seem to just be public servants their whole life, and seem to not really want to go out and work hard, at least the majority of them don't. Now, this is a major problem in the ACT for reasons I've mentioned. But it is, of course, a problem throughout government. For example, say we're looking at federal politics. If your politics are to rob Peter to pay Paul, you can almost always count on the vote of Paul. Unless Paul happens to want to go out and work hard, him or herself, using the word Paul metaphorically here anyway, as but an example. Now, we've seen this manifest itself in how the government treats things like capital gains tax or negative gearing. You see this rhetoric, which to my mind is completely disingenuous, come out there saying, if you get to keep more of your own money, then it's a subsidy. Somehow, a tax reduction is a subsidy. Somehow a capital gains tax discount is a subsidy. It isn't a subsidy. It is letting people keep more of their own hard-earned money. In my opinion, it is a subsidy every time a taxpayer pays tax to the government. Every time you pay capital gains tax, you are subsidizing the government, not the other way around. And if they let you keep more of your own money, that is not a subsidy. The same thing applies with so-called negative gearing. Negative gearing is a bit of a weasel word to describe a perfectly normal situation. A situation where people can offset their losses on one thing against the gains on another. If, for example, Woolworths is making a profit on milk and a loss on bread, they can offset the loss on bread against the profit on milk. In the case of negative gearing, if people are making a loss on property and a profit on perhaps their day job, then you can offset one loss against the profit. It's a perfectly normal situation in every other area of life. The word negative gearing needs to be retired. And to be very clear, letting people keep more of their own money by using, for example, so-called negative gearing is again not a subsidy. But the ALP and the Greens seem to be intent on using that type of rhetoric. Now, of course, there's a bit of a silver lining. It's clear that Anthony Albanese has benefited from investing. He sold one property to buy what appears to be a dream house with his partner. I'm rather happy for Anthony Albanese being able to do this. After all, he's reached the pinnacle of public life in Australia. He really deserves to be able to actually make a go of it. He's done quite well. Now, one might argue that he's been his whole life in the public service. But at least he was ambitious and got to the top and tried to make a better life for himself. And we do inherently need some people working for the government. Now, to my mind, it would be better if you had fewer career public servants. But that's a topic for another time and is a little bit beside the point with his house. I'm happy for him with his recent purchase, and I'm happy for him that he was able to invest to get there. It's something that should be encouraged, and I think he should level with the Australian people. He should say, yes, I invested, yes, this allowed me to make a better life for myself, and you should try to do the same. That's what he should be saying to the public, but he hasn't really come out and said that, unfortunately. And Jim Chalmers, who to my mind is the real problem, who is a career politician yet again, who has only otherwise worked for a left-leaning think tank, well, Jim Chalmers appears to be intent on trying to tear people down when they have gotten ahead. Jim Chalmers appears to have not even tried to invest. He appears to have spent all of his life just working for the government, hoping that taxpayers pay him. He seems to believe that your money is the government's first and yours second. And if it let you keep just a little bit of it, then it's somehow a subsidy. He, to my mind, is significantly worse than Anthony Albanese is. But circling back around to the ACT, it appears that none of that really matters in the ACT. It appears the ACT is just intent on trying to redistribute people's wealth. If you're successful, the ACT wants to tear you down. And that doesn't appear like it's going to change anytime soon. Let's just hope that other states go in a different direction, as Queensland looks set to do.